Good morning, everybody. I told you I would be trying to get back into this now. If you will. But anyway, the reason I want to do this audio video at 9:45 Saturday morning is not just due to the fact that my mom right now is currently in school, nor is it due to the fact that everything's getting back to normal around here. Because it's because I thought of something. And as you can see on the cover here, again, I'm talking about 231. And who hasn't been talking about it? But I've come up with a new theory for 230 and 231. Now, a lot of people so far have assumed a lot of things about Sally's character in 231. You know, some have assumed that she's going to be roboticized, possibly. Don't know how that's going to happen. Some have assumed she's going to get legionized, a possibility. Some are assuming she's going to be dead. And some are assuming she's going to be MIA, missing in action. Well, there's a lot of good theories. I've even come up with a theory that still might happen, even if it's just for one issue, and that's her merging with Nicole. But we'll just have to wait and see. Basically, there's another theory that came to my mind. And believe it or not, this theory that came to my mind sort of has to do a little bit with the MIA theory. Now, it's not totally MIA, if you will, but it's sort of in that category. I know this may sound crazy to a lot of you. Now, last night, because I mentioned this in a video, I was watching Sonic Underground on Netflix, because you can watch the entire series now on Netflix. And it just occurred to me because I was watching the episode 6 as a crowd, and at the end of the episode, they had Aleena appear before her children. Now, here's my thought on this. Here's where this new theory comes in. I would not be surprised if Ian was to pull something similar to what was pulled in Sonic Underground. And what I'm talking about is having Sally go MIA, but at least acknowledge to her friends and family in some way that she's okay, that she's alright. She's just waiting for the right moment to come back and reunite with them. That's sort of like what Aleena has been doing in Sonic Underground. She acknowledges the fact to the Oracle. Well, the Oracle knows more than anything. But she acknowledges to her children that, hey, I'm okay. I'm alright. I'm just waiting for the right time to reunite with you guys. And to me, again, I would not be surprised if Ian was to go in that direction. And the reason I say that is because in a way, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. I mean, think about it. Think about it this way. We never really got a resolution to Sonic Underground. Maybe Ian, in his own twisted way, wants to give us a resolution, but using this comic book. Now, again, I know that kind of sounds far-fetched. I know that sounds like, that's impossible, it'll never happen, Ian's not going to go in that direction. Well, I understand that. I mean, I understand when people read a description for an issue that says, the world is safe, but at a terrible cost. I can understand that. But what is that terrible cost? I mean, if Sally's going to be MIA, if you will, but then all of a sudden say, hey, I'm okay, I'm fine, I just don't want, Robotnik to know I'm alive and all that. I just need to wait till the right moment. Just think of how much of an ace in the hole that would be for the characters in the book. Because think about it. Here you would have a princess. If this is the direction Ian Flynn would go in, if this is the direction, here you would have a character in Sally, basically, who's able to give information, do what Uncle Chuck did, but basically do it by going all throughout the world. Because you got to remember one thing that she has. One thing that she keeps on her. She has a warp ring. Got it? A warp ring. She has one of those. So she can go from place to place, finding out certain things, reporting into Nicole, reporting into the freedom fighters, so that they always be a step ahead. So that when that time comes when she reunites with them against Robotnik will finally realize, oh shit, I've been outduped, I've been outsmarted, they've always been a step ahead of me. Because again, I know this sounds crazy, but when you look at Sonic Underground, when Aleena showed up, she showed up at times to not only help rescue her children. As a matter of fact, there was an episode, I can't think of it right now, where she, at the last moment, showed up in a little ship and blasted these two holders, or whatever they're called, that contained her sons inside individual roboticizers. Then she appeared, not visually, but in a cloak or something like that, in the debutante ball episode, and so on and so forth. What I'm saying, folks, about that is that she always seemed to be a step ahead with Robotnik. I mean, even when her children didn't know she was being a step ahead of him, she was a step ahead. What I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to go in that direction with Sally. Now, again, I know you're thinking that's impossible. There's no way that's going to happen because these other theories are more logical. Yeah, those other theories are more logical. I will say that, but I'm just saying this is a new theory because I watched Underground last night, like I said, and I said to myself, you know what? This would be something Ian Flynn would try. I would not be surprised if he was to go in this direction because think about it. Think about it. You have a character that's supposedly, to a villain standpoint, gone, history, done with. And yet, all of a sudden, every plan that they have around the world, everything that they've conquered or accomplished around the world, or trying to accomplish, starts falling apart around them. You get what I'm saying, folks? What I'm saying is it makes a little bit more sense. Now, again, I'm not sure if Ian's going to go in that direction. Because I will say this. There's a lot of people that say Ian Flynn, that this story, this Genesis story arc, the prologue, the current story arc, the implage, and then afterwards are going to make or break Ian. That this could be where Ian's job is on the line. Now, some have said that if Ian decides to go with the idea of offing a character as popular as Sally, that the book's going to be okay. In fact, according to one post at the Sonic Stadium, I believe, or even Saturday M Sonic, one of the two, they said that book sales went up after 134. Well, the reason they went up, I believe, isn't because of the slap, and it wasn't because of the fact that there was a lot of Sally haters out there. No. It went up because people were intrigued, possibly, as to how long this whole dissension, this whole breakup, this whole whatever between Sally and Sonic was going to last. That's why they went up. Because they were always going to assume, oh, it's only for a temporary time and they'll get back together, whatever. Hello? Sonic and Sally didn't officially get back together until recently. But what I'm saying, folks, though, is this. If Ian decides to do it and go through with it and offing Sally, a lot of people have said that'll cost him his job. That will cost him his job. Maybe it won't. You know, because there's a lot of people that have offed characters in comic books that have been in comics since the beginning. It's like I mentioned in my video while I was talking about the comic books in the past few years, when I said that the Human Torch was offed, supposedly, after so many years. After being around since the 60s, he was finally offed, if you know what I mean. But is he gone? You see, everybody's always wondering that. We don't know. I mean, people still speculate if that's true or not. But you see, that's just the thing here. Marvel Comics has been doing this kind of thing for a long time. And they've always found a way to kind of twist the arms. They're experts. The people at Marvel Comics are experts on how to twist arms and get people to think, oh my God, they actually killed off the character. And then all of a sudden, here's the character again. Doesn't make sense, right? It's kind of like what I mentioned with the DC Comics universe reboot. Nobody likes this idea. Nobody wants this to happen, but yet it's going to happen because of one reason. It's to reintroduce the characters and the worlds to newer readers. And the same is being said for Genesis. Genesis is Archie Comics' way, Ian Flynn's way, and possibly Sega's way of reintroducing the comic book and the characters to newer readers out there. And how do you introduce them, you ask? You introduce them by taking what they have heard and seen as one of the most popular characters in history of that book since the beginning of that book, and since the beginning of the cartoon show. You do it by having that character possibly killed off right off the bat. But I seriously have my doubts that Ian's going to go through with it. I seriously have my doubts. I mean, he doesn't specifically say what the terrible cost is. He doesn't specifically say what the event is at the end of 230 that's going to blow us away. We don't specifically know that. Now, unless we know somebody that's close to Ben Bates or whoever works alongside Ian, and unless we can get information from those people, we're never going to really know. We can guess, we can theorize and everything, but we can't really officially say, oh, this is what's going to happen, because we can't assume that. It's like I mentioned in my video recently where I talked more about 231, like I'm doing now. But here's what I said. I said that Ian Flynn has been known to twist us, throw us the curveball, if you will. I mean, again, I use for an example what happened with Lawler Sue / Janaka in the final issue of the Silver Story arc in Sonic Universe. I mean, raise your hand if any of you, raise your hand or whatever, thumb up if you will, put a smiley face, whatever you want to, or whatever, just acknowledge if any of you saw Lawler Sue Janaka in Sonic Universe Silver Story arc in the final issue, becoming the first female angelic and good Urajak. Raise your hand. Tell me, did you see that coming? Because honestly, I didn't. And there's a lot of people at the Sonic Stadium, Saturday Morning Sonic, the Mobius Forum, probably even Bumble King forums, that did not see that coming. So how do we know he's not going to pull a similar twist? Because we don't. Remember, again, another example is you go back to the Iron Dominion saga. In the cover, of the book, which was entitled, or asked the question, which was entitled with the question, Bunny Gone Bad. And when we all first looked at that months before, I mean, heck, I even did a video on it, I think. A lot of people were getting pissed off that Ian Flynn would even consider turning Bunny bad. And what happened? She didn't turn bad. She didn't turn bad, folks. All it was the Iron Queen using her magic to control her cybernetic limbs. That's all it was. So we can't assume that what we see on the covers are exactly what we're going to get in the book. We can't assume that. Because you see, that's exactly what Ian Flynn wants us to assume. He wants us to assume that this is what's going to happen to Sally. That's what's going to happen to her. Or this is what's going to happen. We can't assume that, folks. We can't do that. Now, again though, there is a possibility that he could go with any one of the theories people talk about, but he probably could go with the newest theory that I've looked at, and that's follow the route that was used in Sonic Underground with Queen Aleena. I mean, wouldn't that make more sense if you think about it? I mean, not to Robotnik's. I mean, with the twist that Eggman Robotnik is the only one that doesn't know she's alive still, but yet everybody in the Freedom Fighters does. I mean, wouldn't that be something to follow that route? I mean, it would make it more intriguing to where you'd be knowing, okay, she's alive, she's fine. But when will she reunite with them? That would be something that would get people. That would be something that would get people wanting to read the book. You see, what I'm saying, folks, is that's just another theory as to what Ian will possibly try doing in the next few months. I mean, I know there's a lot of us that don't want to spend our holiday season as fans asking ourselves and being mad at the fact that Ian has done this to one of our most popular characters. I know that for a fact. I know nobody wants to spend a holiday doing that. But I will say this. Whatever Ian's got planned, he better have a good reason for it. Because if he doesn't have a good reason for it, there's going to be a lot of people pissed off about him. Because I will agree about this. Ian's job hangs in the balance here. I mean, somebody pointed out the fact that he had done 75 plus issues since he had been on this comic. That is true. He may have done 75 plus. And he's got a whole new workload, according to what they've said, from the main Sonic title to Sonic Universe to Mega Man and to whatever. Yeah, he's got a huge workload. So yeah, there's definitely a possibility he's got to drop something, but we don't know what. I mean, I know a lot of people are hoping he drops Sonic the Hedgehog so that somebody else, someone fresh, can come in, look at what he's done and say, you know what? I don't like what he's done here. I've got an idea. You know, that would be something people would like. But you know, just thinking about that right now, you know, people want, just thinking about that makes you think maybe Ian's already thinking about that too. Thinking that Ian has to know his job hangs in the balance here. He has to know that. And you know what's funny? I just thought about this right off the fly. I just thought about this. Actually, I have been thinking about it, but it just occurred to me now. I wouldn't be surprised if Ian ends up making this whole situation with Sonic nothing more than a dream. Yeah. You remember how I talk about curveballs and twists? I wouldn't be surprised by that. I wouldn't be surprised if Ian decides to throw the twist that Sonic survived what happened at the end of 125, but ended up in a coma for a long time. Or not a coma, but in a deep induced sleep. And this whole situation that's been going on since after 125 up till now has been nothing more than a dream. I mean, that would be something. And I know some people might say, oh, that was nothing more than a cop-out there. Well, you know what? It would make it more intriguing. It would make it more intriguing, and it would make us rest assured the fact that, oh, okay, nothing happens to the characters. He was just dreaming. Yeah, it sounds like a cop-out, but that's another theory there, along with the one to where it's similar to what happens in Sonic Underground with Queen Aleena. But again, those are just theories of what directions Ian can go in. But again, like I said, we can't assume anything yet. Because, like I said, you go back to that cover back during the Iron Dominion saga that was entitled with the question, Bunny Gone Bad. Again, a lot of people were pissed off about that, but yet Bunny didn't go bad. All she was controlled by the Iron Queen. That's all that was happened. Her limbs were being controlled by the Iron Queen. That's all. And the same could be said for Nicole. Remember when we saw that prototype cover for one of the issues? I can't think of it right now. I think it was 211 or something like that, or 210. I think it was 210. That prototype cover, which ended up being on the inside. A lot of us were pissed off about what was going on there until we read 209, or whatever issue it was, that Sally was able to get Nicole back to normal and used her as a double agent. Okay? And it wasn't until we read that issue that we realized that as well. You see, just because the pictures may say one thing doesn't mean they mean that same thing. They can mean something totally different. So we can't assume something's going to happen when it's not going to happen. I mean, people look at 231 and they say, well, Sally's not on the cover with Sonic. I only see Tails and I only see Nagas. Okay, a lot of people have a point of looking at that and saying, I only see this and that. But are we sure? Just because Sally's not on the cover doesn't mean she's not in the story. And now I know you're saying, well, yeah, she's probably in the story, but she's now this and that. Folks, we can't assume that just yet. We can't assume just because a cover shows us something that we think is going to be in the story. We can't assume that. We can't. I mean, because if we assume this is what's going to happen and that's what's going to happen and blah, 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 and then all of a sudden we read that very issue and it's something totally different, it makes us look like idiots. It puts egg on our face. And that's what head comic book writers like to do to the readers. They like to have them have egg on the face. They like them to look like idiots because they're always guessing something which never really happens or cannot happen. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Well, I thought I'd just get that off my chest. Again, getting back to what I was saying, 2 new theories. The first new theory, the whole going in the direction of Queen Aleena of Sonic Underground. Just have Sally acknowledge to her friends and her family that, hey, I'm okay. I just got to keep Robotnik thinking I'm dead. And don't worry, I'm using a warp ring to go from here to here to here to probably sabotage things or to give you information, blah, blah, blah. And then, secondly, the other theory is it could be nothing more than a dream that Sonic's having after nearly sacrificing himself in 125. I'm just saying. I mean, again, I know people will say that's a cop-out, but in a way it makes more sense. And it kind of gives us a sigh of relief if that was the direction he wanted to do, or the curveball he wanted to throw. So, again, those are just my theories, and just a little bit more of a rant on 231. So, comment down below if you like. Tell me what you guys think. And I will talk to y'all later.